Hey, y'all, welcome back to another episode of All American Wing Shooting Podcast. Today we have my buddy, Mitch Petrie. He is the Vice President of Programming and Strategic Planning at the Outdoor Channel. And he's an amazing boat driver, our boat captain in Minnesota.
Feel like I'm an ambassador. Like I get to wear my Outdoor Channel hat. It, in this light, looks like it's a little bit dirty, but it is because guess what? We live outdoors.
We live outdoors. Well, I wore all my dog gear because we always connect on dogs.
Yeah, for sure. I brought my dog. She's sitting behind me, and she's moved on. But and then I hung my first pheasant. Luna's actually first wild bird retrieved from Minnesota last year. Just got it back from the tax.
No way.
My kids were asking me, they're like, "Is that really a thing? Do people do that?" And I said, "Well, I do it. It was awesome. You know, it was a great experience." And yeah, so now I
got
get
a good
picture. Yeah, I see that. And a guitar. See, all the cool people have guitars and pheasants, and my camera doesn't
duck that Mercy chewed out all the curl feathers. That little punk, but it was the first one, so I kept it.
Yeah.
Well, that's Tater's guitar. She is rocking on her guitar stuff, and she just had a big invitation by our friend Tom Perkins to come up and prepare for a writer's round in Nashville. So she's working with her guitar coach, Bart Walker, and she starts voice lessons today. So super cool. Yeah. So Tater takes over my little spot when I'm not here.
Awesome.
Yeah. Okay. I haven't seen you in a while, and we haven't really been able to catch up, but I know season's around the corner, and I know you and Luna have a schedule. I can't wait to hear about it.
Yeah. No, for sure. You want to hear about it?
Yeah.
I used to say that I'd be a better hunter if I didn't fish so much, but now that I have a bird dog, I pretty much don't hunt. Focused on that, and as you can understand, it's not about birds. I've gotten invitations to just call, and I always tell people, I want to go and I'll work with my dog. I'll be a limited extender. You can shoot all my birds. I don't care. I just want to spend time in the field with the dog and give her those opportunities. So, that said, I have a couple of big hunts this year. I've got a Kansas archery whitetail and a Utah rifle hunt elk. So that will burn up a couple of weeks at a time, in the upland field really. But, I plan to do a lot of hunting right here around Minnesota and South Dakota, and a couple of weekends planned in South Dakota, and just be able to sneak out to Montana. That's really been on my bucket list, to get out to eastern Montana. And my son's in third year at Montana State in Bozeman, so he's going to probably join me, and industry contacts as well in the Miles City area that we might go out and do a little hunting in Montana. But I'm actually going to Canada with the family here in a week, and I send Luna out to Dawkins down in Northfield, Minnesota for that week. So Luna and I work every day, and I need to, just to keep her energy level under control. She's a 3-year-old puppy, and still has a lot of drive and a lot of energy. So it helps to get that burned off a little bit in the morning. But she'll be spending 6 days with Mike Weeben down at Dawkins Kennels, and it's a perfect way for her to get back into the kind of early season form. So you
tune up,
put on a couple of pounds. I mean, literally a couple of pounds. I think last time I weighed her, she was 72.5. She's normally her hunting weight is close to 70 pounds. So it is funny
how detailed you are about her. Like, I don't know if you know about all the boys to the level of detail that you do the dog.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just been a great outlet for me just to focus, and I'd rather focus on her weight than my own.
Yeah.
But because she's a lot younger and her body responds to activity and nutrition better than my body does at 54. But it's funny, actually, I do work out with a trainer, and I bring Luna, and it's kind of like the highlight of the group that I work out with is Luna comes in at the beginning and the end of the workout. not the middle because she would want to be in the middle of everything. And then my trainer Clark and I were talking one time, and I was like, she's she's just she needs to drop a couple of pounds. She's like 2 or 3 pounds, but she's got a really trim waistline. Still, she's very, very healthy. I mean, nobody else would look at her and think that like cut some weight. But what two of Clark's clients were listening to us, and they thought I was talking about a woman, like one of his clients. Like she needs to lose like 3 pounds. But she's got a really trim waistline. Like, and I looked over at them, and I could just see they were like eyes wide. I was like, "We're talking about a dog. Talking about Luna, my dog." So, yeah, no, he's no, he is ready. And I'm excited because this is my first journey with my own hunting dog. I've hunted with dogs for my entire life, and just my work schedule never really allowed me to be there for a dog. And I tell you, it's one of the positives about the pandemic is it's like, well, I'm not traveling anymore. I'm sitting in my basement. I can go outside in my own yard, and it just worked out well. And I have a relationship with Tom and Tina Dockin from some previous work I did in Minneapolis, and I just called Tina and I said, I'd really been looking for upwards of 5 years, but not serious, like not ready to like pull the trigger. And I just said, it's time. And he helped us find a good dog for us, and kind of an inventory of what I was looking for, what my personality was like. And we got lucky. We got a
She matched
really
you with
good dog.
a perfect dog. And
Yeah.
I'll never forget coming to your house, taking a selfie with Luna V, texting it to Tina and being like, "Look who I met." Never told her where I was. And she was
Hmm.
like, "Luna." And I'm like, "How in the world can you tell the difference between the hundreds of black labs that you've placed in homes, you
Well,
know?"
I think her training as a grade school teacher helped. She probably doesn't
Yeah.
forget her students either, but no, she knew for sure. And it's been fun. Last year, I was in South Dakota. I was out on the west side of the state, and ended up driving home and driving past Tom and Tina's place, and was able to sneak out and let Tina shoot a couple of birds over Luna, and that was fun. So
Oh, I know
full
she
circle.
appreciated that so much.
Yeah, I think I lost a pair of Maui Jims there, but we'll go back and look for those.
Yeah. She probably would have sniffed those out since they smell like you. Should have left her.
Yeah. Mm.
Well, it is really crazy how getting a dog, because I got into bird dogs later in life too, and both of us needed something in our life, and we were seeking out, I guess, something to fill a hole per se.
Right.
And I ended up with short hairs first. Who nobody warned me. And I finally figured it out after I got sick. So I'm like, man, they're all the same. This just keeps getting crazier. But it's crazy how both of us changed our entire life to where everything we do really is dog centered. Our families have become dog centered. Uh, it is amazing how that happens, how dogs capture our hearts and changes really our entire priority structure.
Yeah.
I'm
It's
signing up to run my first HRC next month in like 3 weeks. I don't
yeah.
even feel ready, but I'm like, I may never be ready. I'm just gonna go.
I Yeah, it isn't. We're at risk of going real deep here. Like, so I'm 54 years old. I've got 3 boys who are, 2 of them have finished college now. One is in 3rd year, and we're basically empty nesters, even though I've got one home here for a couple of weeks before we go to Canada. I, I think as you grow and as life evolves, things happen. And for me, it was, the pandemic. It was just good timing there. And coincidentally, I woke up on June 1st, 2021. And for no reason other than I knew I just needed to be a little bit healthier than I was, I just thought I'm going to take June off of drinking. Right? And so then I did, and I didn't know what to expect. Right? People say you stop drinking, you sleep better. Well, I've always been a really good sleeper, and so I still sleep great. But I ended up going 30 days, and I'm like, well, I'm going to extend that for the summer, right? And then so I go through July, and that's easy. And noticing the money I saved, I was like, that was like, well, I put some of that drinking money into my dog. And so that's when we ended up committing to getting one, and we took delivery, I think, in August, at actually about this time, in 2021, because it was during Game Fair in Minnesota, which is technically for us, and
Right now.
it's now, and it's the kickoff to fall, right? It's that and the state fair are the indicators that, fall is pretty much here. So, yeah, and then I ended up, after the summer, I'm like, "Oh, I'm gonna go a full year," and, like, fully 4 years into it, I'm like, I don't, I'm not an anti-drinker, but it's like, I'm done. I had a good run, and, I do like saving a bunch of money, and, so I put all of my money from my drinking into my dog and her training, and that really was, so I didn't, like, deliberately change my lifestyle around the dog, and to change my lifestyle. I committed to working out and drinking essentially,
Mhm.
and the dog fit perfectly into that because he's just been the daily motivator for me. He is there every morning at 6 o'clock in my bed, telling me it's time to have a little breakfast and, go for a walk. And so, it's been very fun. So yes, we're to the point now where, yes, everything, our whole process now every day goes around the dog. Like, if she's not with me, which she is almost always with me, got to make sure, well, someone's going to go and someone's got to be there to feed her and someone's got to let her out or something. But I solve that issue by having her with me almost all of the time.
Yeah. I'm the same way. I hate leaving home without my littles, especially now that she's
Yeah.
back, because she's been down at Mossy Pond for a while getting ready for us to run HRC. And it was like when she came back, it was like getting a little puppy all over again. It was
Mm.
just so much excitement. I was like, man, I knew she was perfect before she left, and she already had manners, and we were already titling in the hunting tournament world, all the things. But the next level that Lee took her to, she just came home and I'm like, God, I just love her even more.
Yeah.
It's it's been so fun. And then Hallie, of course, is older now and has more independence here at the house. And she has, I don't know if you've seen this on my Instagram, but she tries to do it every night. And since the sun's still up pretty late, it's working in her favor. But as fall gets here, and the sun starts going down a little earlier, it's not going to be able to work in the schedule. But she conned my dad into buying a massive duck camo float at JC's fall Ducks Unlimited banquet at UGA last year. So she's been waiting and waiting and waiting to put that in the pond because we have ponds right out our back door.
Hmm.
So little swims all around the pond, and Tater's out there with her big raft and her paddles, and they play all the time. Like, we have the coolest swimming pool, in the
Right.
backyard, and they play all the time. And then she'll fish, and the dog just hangs out. And she didn't have that up until, like, we didn't get her until July. So the first part of the summer, she didn't have her little buddy running around, and it's fine. They just zip around on the side by side all over the farm and stuff. And I know it's way more fun for her now that Littles is back home, because
Yeah.
her dog doesn't play with her.
Right.
Her short hair is, like, all biz. It's, like, looking for a bird, like, wanting to run and all that, and so it's special to have the best of both worlds.
Yeah. I've been impressed with, because this being my first go round, and I would say I've been around dogs and knowledgeable about them, but, I don't know how to train dogs. I've read the book, and I've seen videos, I do whatever, but I relied heavily on Mike Weeben to do all the basic training. And one of the things they tell you is, a lot of little things like, no squeaky toys, and you don't, I've known forever, you don't like play tug of war with them. You want to keep them, and all these other little tricks. So I was paranoid early on that I was going to do something that was going to kind of screw her up. And I was
Yeah.
like, and she wants to play. Like, he's very playful. But what's been really cool, and he is truly upset with the orange rubber ball, actually, any ball for that matter. But, when and she doesn't wear the collar around, the e-collar around the house generally. But so he knows that when I even touch the collar, it's like it's game.
Yeah.
And we have a platform. He's trained, place trained. And so, it's like he better than me knows the difference between work and play,
Mhm.
because he can play with the ball and throw it to you and he'll go, and doesn't always come. And by the way, all your dog people listening to this are probably going, yeah, he's screwing that way. But
Oh,
no, but
it's so funny, though, that you say that, because everybody with their first dog, especially if they send it to a pro, like, I don't wanna mess up and I don't wanna mess the dog up. I'm gonna do something that's gonna just screw up the whole system. And it's so funny to watch people, like, learn how to be a better dog handler. And
Yeah.
we're starting to host events for ladies down at Mossy Pond to learn about dog handling. Number one, it just builds confidence, like, just the confidence that you gain learning how to do something, have somebody hold your hand through it, then you just have
Yeah.
so much more fun, so much faster.
Right. Like, our expectation early on was like, "Oh, if we have to like, this dog needs to be, in the heel position, and he needs to be here all the time." It's like, "Well, he's a dog, and he wants to explore and play and do whatever." And so we got through that with Mike, our trainer, and he was able to kind of find that balance. But now it's just fun because I can go out, we can throw a ball for her. She'll come. If we don't, we're sitting outside or working in the garage or something, and we're not focused on her playing ball. He'll grab a ball and he'll go to the top of our short driveway that has a hill on it. And by the way, she
It's
doesn't bark. She doesn't bark much, so
it's
who knows
somebody's
who that?
upstairs.
Yeah,
Somebody to
she
learn.
didn't find her voice until like the last 6 months or so, but not a big deal. So one of the reasons why I'm interested in breeding. Anyhow, she will play ball by herself. So she'll bring the ball to the top of the driveway. She'll set it down. Sometimes she'll hit it with her nose, and it will slowly roll off the edge into the backyard there, and then she'll run and grab it and do it all. And she's obsessed. But then, like I said, if I put the collar on her, she knows the same to it. Like
Yeah,
she's very disciplined,
and, like,
and
switch. She has a
yeah,
great switch. Because you have her on the boat all the time. I mean, that dog's been everywhere.
yeah, she loves the boat. Uh, and she loves to swim there too. It's like you have to go through and control her a little bit because she really wants to be in the water. And we don't have a camouflage mat. We have a little rubber mat that you've seen now. We actually got a different one that's a triangle that has nets in the middle. And she'll go and she'll swim. She can now pull herself up on that. We had a little boat ramp, essentially. It's a floaty thing that she could climb into and then climb up onto the back of our boat. Their boat's probably 2.5 feet off the water, the swim deck is. So she can climb up the ladder, a regular ladder now by herself without any assistance.
Luna
And
should
without
be
any,
the Minnesota model for tourism.
yeah, she's up for it. She loves it. She's definitely a boat dog.
So I've been working on a new thing. Um, Switching okay, I won't say I'm switching because 'cause I've always been a wing shooter. Well,
Hmm.
not always, but right after I got bored shooting clays, I switched to wing shooting, but I never really perfected a system in wing shooting like I did with clay shooting in the beginning of my training. And I wanna make sure well, I really just enjoy the heck out of the details, but I also have been given these opportunities to start coaching other ladies, and I'm like, "Man, I want to teach them properly because of the tradition and the heritage." Somebody's all these generations have invested into wing shooting. So, I've been meeting with my coach, and he's been kicking my tail. I mean, literally, like, "You're not quick enough," and, it's really fun. He just barks at me all the time. So, last night, I pulled out my side-by-side, and I'm like, "Okay, I'm gonna start doing my drills just like I preach to tater bugs, like, we gotta get stronger, we gotta get quicker, all the things." And I pulled out my gun, and I didn't even think about, like, Little's being back home and, like, it's about to be hunting season. She bounced off the walls. I mean, she was, like, so excited, and I was like, "Oh my god, I gotta plan a pheasant trip." I cannot go this season not take my dogs to chase pheasants
Hmm.
because she's back. That was so exciting to see her get so excited, where I was going to work and she's like, "No, it's playtime." Yeah.
Right.
For
I have
her,
to be careful.
it's like,
Yeah, Luna's the same because she sees ammo coming out or blaze orange, and she's like, "Okay, she's ready anytime. She's always ready for that." So he doesn't know
it
the
was fun.
season's pretty close here.
Okay. Well, I don't know if I can get up there or if we can meet in the middle. It'd be fun to make some plans because I would love to hunt with Miss Luna too.
Yep.
I'll keep you posted on how our HRC little trip goes. Tater's wanting to start running dogs, so I'm like, "Ooh, we're gonna have to start borrowing some dogs because it's not so fun to show up for just one, you know,
Yep.
especially with the two of us that have to start taking turns." But that's our next venture. That and then just keep on getting more shooters out there and help building confidence so that they find their own place and they stick around. We talk about this a lot on this podcast. That women is the fastest growing demographic. They're also the first to leave.
Yeah.
And I honestly think if people experienced or if women were able to have the dog and be confident enough into committing to the dog, that would help keep the commitment to keep them in the hunting industry. But
Yeah. So get this. I got something that you'll love. A friend of mine, Michelle Morey, is president. And it's a great one. She's president of the Women Anglers of Minnesota.
yeah,
And they have, it says here their 47th annual open water fishing tournament was in June. So they've been around a while and they have hundreds of women at it. And it's just all women. It's really cool. The Michelle's story is awesome because I think she's probably a lifelong angler, but like
mhm,
she's a breast cancer survivor and really didn't get into fishing until late in life, like before fishing. And then when she did, like she went all over the top and now she's president of WAM. So he was interested in raising money for them, but wanted to explore. He get a lot of donations for fishing tips for that. Wanted to explore hunting as
okay,
auction items. So last year I donated a trip just to a game farm in southern Minnesota,
mhm,
but it was intended to be an introductory hunting experience for Wham, and it sold and it did well in the auction, and probably because we focused on hunting with Luna, not hunting with me.
yeah,
Uh, and so we donated that trip again. In fact, I've got to reach out and plan that one. So, because there is obviously amazing crossover between fishing and hunting, but it's exciting. I enjoy helping the two women that came last year. Both were familiar. Both had husbands who hunted, and both had hunted in the past. But were not experienced. You can talk about, game farm experience. It is what it is. I joined the club to learn rent. Like I can't get out every day and do whatever, but I can go down there on short notice. They can put birds out, but it's a good place that uses people to that whole
that's the
experience.
fact of the game farm life. And
Yeah.
what I've always said about it is it's accepted, of course, down south. Like that's where we go shoot our quail, right? And
Right.
um, it's a perfect place to get started because you don't need anything, and you've got somebody to hold your hand, get
Yeah.
the whole experience together, and then you can go as deep into the pool as you want to from there. But later in life, when you're not wanting to chase birds and hike all the miles and
Yeah. Or in Minnesota, yeah, hike 10 miles and not speed anything.
yeah, like you can
But
still go back there and you never have to give it up. And there was a man that was pretty iconic at a local preserve where I actually started all my puppies. And he just passed away a couple weeks ago. I saw the Facebook post from South Fork, and he was so precious because every Saturday it was like the old man's group was there at the preserve running their dogs, and then they would clean their birds. They'd put out the Coleman stove on their tailgate, and they would cook quail. And then if you got done and you decided you wanted to join their little party, like they'd cook your birds for you. And it was just so much fun to see how they extended the community there at the hunt
no, I
club.
love it.
Yeah. And so it was like, this is so special. So I see how no matter what type of hunting there is, because I know that there's a lot of judgment within the hunting community, there's a place for all of it. When you look at how it keeps the community together, how it brings new people in, how it gives people a place when they've kind of outgrown the the
Sure.
hard the hard hunt. Um, yeah, I
And
think
at
it's really something
in
to
game
celebrate.
farm experience, it condenses it into like a half day
Yeah,
tonight. Because, when you and I, or when anyone talk about upland hunting, you're not talking all that much about the actual shooting of the bird itself. I mean, maybe you had a unique fluck or a double or something cool really happened, but, you know, the, when you're share that hunt with others, it's like, well, it was they make wild rice and blueberry elk at Traxler's where I hunt. And it's like, so you go and and everything you either hunt the morning before lunch or, or you have lunch and then go out on them. And so it's like, you have the whole camp experience. You have, they have throwers and they have a horse down there. You can go and get people out who aren't very comfortable with shotguns and give them a chance. Like, but you get to kind of condense a full on experience and just, in a short little package. And I think it taken a lot of folks there who are like, I would definitely do that again. I've taken a couple of folks there who are like, they own dogs now, and they're like, yeah,
Exactly, exactly, and it's so nice to get people started there. Um, for me, like, just getting into duck hunting, and then she just got trained for that. Mossy Pond offers, they built an entire flooded, swamp so that the dogs would actually be trained in what they would go hunting in, like, Arkansas in the flooded timber. So they have that at their training facility down
yeah,
south. And so I cannot wait to have ran my dog this fall in HRC, really get our skills underway, and then get to go down there and get in the water, right? In real life scenario with all the people, with all the birds, all the things, and understand what I'm doing before I get thrown into the deep end of the pool, which I don't hunt public land really. I mean, I'm not going to say I never would, but oh my gosh, I could not imagine getting your dog, not having any experience going public land in Arkansas with your dog, with all the people and everything. And I'm like, oh my gosh, they talk about all the crazy things. Like, I heard a story last year, Maggie Williams got shot at, and it was like, holy smokes, this is just insane. So, yeah, I'm all about creating scenarios to build your skills so that you understand all the moving parts and
right.
you're as safe as you could possibly be. Like, there's
I,
a
I'm,
reason to
I,
have all of these
I'm
situations.
smart enough to know, like I've talked about going to Arkansas. I've never hunted there. I do want to do more, waterfowl just the rest of the night. Um, we did some youth with me last year. She received her first mallard, and it was perfection. Like, it was so awesome. And what I've learned is, like, he has a little bit of an aversion to upland feathers, particularly when it's warm out, because you come back and she'll have a mouthful of feathers. And I was like, yeah, that's not very pleasant for her. But it's the only time where she doesn't like really want to, like, she doesn't want to finish the retrieve. Like, I know she's capable of doing it because she'll get back to me and she'll be like, you got a bird and feathers are flying all over. But her first mallard retrieve, it was like, it was just perfection. It was like throwing a training dummy, right? He came back and the bird, all the, it's because of the wax on their feathers or whatever they have to repel water and all that. It's like, that bird was pristine. She had it in her mouth. He did the perfect retrieve. I'm like, okay, we got to recreate that. And,
It's awesome. And so,
yeah, I haven't been to Saskatchewan in a decade. I think I'd love to go and do some field hunting for mallards up there at some point. And and like I said, I'm smart enough to know that if I go to Arkansas, I would absolutely love to bring my dog to have her in camp. I
yeah.
wouldn't be pushing to have her in the field with us. Like I said, I haven't had that experience. I need to get out and do that and understand. And the last thing I want to do, in an environment like that, is introduce a dog who's just not quite there. Unless someone says, "Hey, let's give your dog this experience, and this will be part of the experience. We'll get her out there. We'll train her. We'll do that." Like, I can keep her in place. I'm pretty, she's never been on like a tree platform or anything like that, but she's plate trained, so I'm sure she would actually do it. I may,
Translate into it a lot easier than we think, but of course
oh, for sure.
we worry about it, and everything. But yeah, I'm
I,
feel pretty fortunate. They're still 5 hours away, but to get so much experience with your dog before you go out there, I think it's just awesome.
5 hours. My son goes to just finished at University of Iowa, which is 4 hours and 50 minutes from here. And I did the turn and burn the other day. I had to drive down, pick him up, and drive home. I would rather drive 5 hours to Arkansas and do something and come back.
Yeah.
You know,
Okay. Let's talk about your job because your job is very interesting for
yeah.
everybody else that, it's not our job.
That's the best part of my job is technically this is part of my job, right? I wish I could do this every day. I don't get to talk to people who are as passionate about the outdoors as I am, but yeah. My job is I work with all the independent producers on Outdoor Channel and Sportsman Channel, World Surfing Network. Me and I have a small team, Jake and Monty, who work with me. We're like the three amigos. Internally, they always refer to us as MMJ because, like, when they want an opinion of somebody in TV and the outdoors and talent and whatnot, they always say, well, let's ask MMJ. So I'm the first M in MMJ, I guess, or maybe I'm the second M. I don't know. Mitch, Monty, and Jake. But yeah, we have a good time. You know, we get to work with some pretty amazing people, and we share the passion. And we all actively participate in the outdoors and love it. The TV business, which it's now evolved into the content business, which is good. Um, I would say it's past its prime, but I think there's still great days ahead for those who are continuing to push the limits on, content and, get people outdoors and inspiring them to, hunt and shoot and fish. So yeah, our company, Outdoor Sportsman Group, we have 4 networks. We have My Outdoor TV, which is an app, that's available pretty much everywhere you want to be with one exception, which is YouTube, which we can talk about that later if you want to. But, yeah, the market's evolving, content's evolving. There's so much content everywhere, and kids are consuming content differently than we did growing up. But so there's definitely challenges and headwinds in the space, but at the end of the day, we're still serving, I think, a pretty cool niche market.
How did you find yourself there? Not necessarily at the Outdoor Channel, but in this world of
Yeah,
influence. Like, you deal with the biggest influence platforms.
sure. Um, I think my story of my life has been less about I'm here and I want to go there, and here's how I get there, and more of just kind of sticking it out there. And, like I was working for a software company back in 2000. My wife and I had one child. Um, the software market kind of went super, there's the .com bust essentially. I worked for a .com company and ended up going to work for my family's manufacturing business, which made shooting range products, range systems, ballistic rubber. If you've ever got into a rubber block or, granular rubber traps on that's what our family business was. And, I met a guy in the TV space at the NRA convention in Orlando, probably in 2003, and ended up working with him on his TV show and, built a relationship with Outdoor Channel. And then we had a show that the network said we needed to make some production improvements too. So I hired a guy named Ron Sheriff, who is a legend in Minnesota. And after a year and one season of working with Ron to help our show look better, Ron hired me to be his president of Ron Sheriff Productions, the first president ever, because he was a host and a writer and was on the road a lot and didn't really want to
Many
deal with.
hats.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
didn't want. He also was at the time was still writing for the Star Tribune. He wrote the outdoor beat there for 40 years, and then did a show on the Care 11, which is the NBC affiliate called Minnesota Bound. So he wanted somebody who understood the outdoor space, but didn't that like I didn't want to be Ron Sheriff, right? As much
Yeah.
as I enjoyed being in the field and hunting and being on TV in small doses for me can be fun, but it's also a pain in the butt as traveling with the camera and it's like, oh, I think I'm here. Oh, you can't. There's not enough light. Like, oh, um, so yeah, that was my first TV experience, and I ended up building a relationship with Outdoor Channel because we did some shows for them, and then the opportunity came to go to work for Outdoor Channel. Actually, Sportsman Channel hired me to run programming when Outdoor Channel bought Sportsman Channel, and then things just evolved, and I took over programming for all of the networks, and uh, we've got a pretty strong team as well. So I have kind of a really small niche within the market there to serve the producers to create all the content that we put on our network. That's, as long as that's about as short as my story gets to how I got here.
Yeah.
I,
It's amazing because it wasn't like you said, this is the job that I want, but yet, you're at the top of the list.
yeah, I was like, I'm a big fish in a puddle, not even a small, but in a pub. And I joke, I was like, I've had some pretty amazing experiences, not just like field experiences in that, but even like in the business sense. Um, you know, um, I could probably write a book that I think maybe 100 people would find interesting, because
So because of all the people that you've met, the outdoor industry is just so full of characters. There's
yeah, for
just
sure.
so many characters, and every trade show I meet somebody, I'm like, "Oh my god, they're my next new favorite person," and
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
just a really cool place that ends up feeling like family, like, so many parts of the industry just overlap, and
that's fine.
we
So I
even
watched the
talked this
video. I
we're
got
done.
served a video yesterday. There's some sort of video you've seen, and it was Ted Nugent screaming at Piers Morgan uh,
I
about
haven't seen it yet.
gun control and about it. And it's if you look up Ted Nugent, Piers Morgan, you'll see it. And I had seen that video a dozen times before, and it came up, and I was just watching, and Ted gets fired up, and he starts like he's not being disrespectful, screaming, but he is yelling at him because he's passionate about the subject matter, right? And I was like, wow, holy flashback, because one of my best stories is when Ted Nugent screamed at me for like for like 20
Okay. Well,
20
that
minutes. And it was like, I had an outer body experience because I'm driving to Michigan, coincidentally, to go to NASCAR race by where he was. And, he had an issue with something that the company had done. And I was like, this dude is just like, I was like, well, most people have to go to YouTube to have Ted Nugent yelling at you. Yeah, he wasn't mad at me personally. He was frustrated about some things going on. And so I was not like drinking or anything, but it was like, yeah, I've been screamed at by Ted Nugent, and I still appreciate his passion for everything and his contribution. So, it's definitely one of the biggest characters that I've had a chance to work with, and I like that. I missed my history that when I left Ron Share Productions, I was independent for a while. We did a show for Outdoor Channel called Warden, which still exists.
yeah.
Yeah, so I'm executive producer of that series, and that series is now running on Animal Planet as Yellowstone Wardens or Wardens of the North, when we're in Montana or Michigan. It's the same show we shot in 2011, 2012, 2013. So it's still evergreen, I would say. Very, very proud of that. But I did a stint for 2 years at Polaris Industries, which is the off-road vehicle company, and I worked for the off-road division managing talent. So, I went from working with Ron Shera, who was a local icon here, to working for Polaris, managing people. That's actually where I did a deal with Ted Nugent, with Jim Shockey, with Lee and Tiffany, Pat Nicole Reeve on Driven TV, and a handful of others, Jana Waller from Skullbound TV at the time. Um, and so that was fun because my job was literally to babysit talent. The first day on the job for me, um, my first assignment at Polaris was to pick Will Primos up at the Minneapolis airport and drive him 3.5 hours north to Babe Winkleman's farm. If you know who Babe Winkleman is, he's another outdoor icon from Minnesota, and really just be there to support Will because Babe was doing production for a Field and Stream thing we were working on, and and Will was just talent, and so they didn't want Will to be alone. So my job was to hang out with Will Primos, and one of the best experiences of my career because he is just authentic and kind and just very experienced and savvy in the space. And my son at the time was, I don't know, because they don't do the math. He was a sophomore, maybe a junior, and probably a sophomore in high school. And he was shooting in the Minnesota State high school track tournament. If you ever heard about it? I think it's the largest track meet
Yeah.
tournament in the country, like 1,000 students, uh, zero concussions. We always joke about, right? They've been very fortunate to show that this is a very safe sport shooting track. So I'm like, Will, I picked you up at the airport, but I'm missing my son's state tournament. He's like, well, we go, but they're going to be driving by us on the interstate. And so this was kind of before some of the apps where you could track people. So I'm like calling my kid, where are you? Where are you? Where are you? Like, okay, pull over. We pulled over on Interstate 94, surrounded by cornfields, and there's an overpass. And my friend Mark and his son were there, and they drove up next to us, and we stood on the highway and introduced Theo, my son, and Mark and John, his son, to Will. Had a conversation. Mark asking questions about the mag roar. It's a grunt call, right? And Will was like in the middle of nowhere, but just he's like totally engaged. Asked for Mark's address when we got back in the car. I sent it to him, and 3 days later, Mark gets a care package from Primo. And that's just kind of like
Yeah.
that's how he rolls. And I also remember then there's more stories about what went down in Babe Winkleman's lair up there. It was pretty interesting. One of the there were bullet holes on the barn where people would drive by Babe farm and shoot at his barn. It's like he's in an interesting part of Minnesota. But I remember one question I asked Will, which was, like, because at this point, he had already sold and bought back his business at least twice, maybe 3 times. Like, brilliant, right? It's like, oh, you sell your business, you stay on as an advisor and help operate it and TV guy. And then he ends up buying it back. And so he's done quite well. And I just asked him, like, what the biggest challenge of your business is, like, now, like, what keeps you up? And I expected him to say something like, well, like the accounting and ERP system or, planning. And it was like, he went in and I bet he took 2 hours to answer that question. It was like, for me, I love the outdoor space. I love participating in it, but I'm driven by the business side of it. And it's like, man, that was a one-on-one TED talk. And the reality is, it was early before a lot of podcasts were happening. It would have been a fantastic podcast interview, right? Like, that was pretty cool. So Will Primo, and I think one of the outcomes of that was, I said, Will, when I'm ready to do my first elk hunt, I'm going to call you. And several years ago, I reached out to him. I said, Will, it's time. And he said, all right, you're going to get a call. And I got a call. And so at this point, I'm like, all right, I probably weighed 20 pounds more than I do now. And I'm like, oh, I hope they don't climb mountains or do whatever. But no, we went to New Mexico and did an archery elk hunt. And I had some encounters and close calls. And I in a complete brain fart swing and a miss, which they, of course, put on Fremo's Truth About Hunting, which you can see on my outdoor TV.
Okay.
But very humbling. But I have an iconic photo from that, which is me drawn back on my first bull ever, and Will Primo standing right behind me with the rangefinder binos. They had given me the yardage, and I never flung an arrow at that one because by the time I was able to draw it, dark. But very cool to be in New Mexico with Will, and look back fondly on that.
That's the best thing about hunt camp is everybody just turns into people, like their passion. They just truly live their passion, and it's contagious.
It was for real for me because we were getting ready. So first of all, this place we go in New Mexico is very civilized. There is the elk come down from the hills and they feed in the bottoms, and then you don't go up. You wait until they get back up in the hills, and then we go out. Like, we didn't leave until like 9:30 in the morning. It's like, wow, I figured we'd be leaving at 3 o'clock in the morning and trying to get up and do whatever. Like, no, we wait till the elk get up there. So that morning we had some breakfast. We're standing around. We're all just shooting our bows, getting ready. And there's some cameras going at this point, but I'm looking around and I'm like, Roy Ruiz, who is the guy who taught me how to call turkeys via a Primo CD that I bought at Galleons, which no longer exists, right? But it's like, but here's Troy and Will on a CD, and that's how I learned how to use a mouth call. He's my camera guy. And Brad Ferris is there, and Jimmy Primos is there, and Will Primos is there. And Jimmy's like laying around on the ground, just sitting there chatting, drinking coffee, and we're all shooting bows. And I was like, this is surreal. This is like, could be like a movie in my space, but it's fun because, big fans of those guys, and to be in that camp, was a lot of fun.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
It's just
Well,
amazing.
thanks for bringing me back to some of those fun, because, sometimes the daily grind in this business isn't always fun because it is a bit of a grind. So, but it is good to think back on all those good times. And by the way, I should be more excited about the fall because it's going to be an amazing fall. So I just have a bunch of work to do before then, but I work well under deadline that way. I don't work very well without those deadlines. So now I leave for Canada for a fishing trip, and then my two boys. It's essentially a graduation gift for those guys. They're each going to shoot a bear up there, and north central Saskatchewan, way near the Arctic Circle with the Lake Lodge. But then I'll come back and start working on my elk, and then start working on my deer, and then start working on my upland. So I got it worked out perfect because upland season in Minnesota starts in October, and so yeah, have to try to figure out how to bring vacation days, I think. Or if you come out, that might be a work event. So we'll figure that out.
I'll come.
Right.
And I would love to go. We just scoot on over to go see Tina. I never get enough of her.
Yeah, I think they're only
Take our dogs.
3.5 hours away from here. And what's amazing is like the first time I ever hunted up by their place, South Dakota, this is my experience. I could be off. But I had done some like business type fun hunts with some friends and associates down Fort Chamberlain in the south. And you go and there's wild birds, but the operations will often put out game farm bird friendly. You get a good mix, but you get into this farm we hunted, like you would see 500 birds flush in one field. It's like Disneyland.
I've
So
never seen
like
anything
it,
like that.
no, and it's awesome. The hard part about having a dog like Luna there is, I mean, they're sent absolutely everywhere. Like you get
Yeah.
out of the truck and he's like bonkers. So then my wife, Kristen, and I, this was really cool part of the rite of passage of being a dog owner is I was like, let's go. My wife is not a big upland hunter, she's not a big hunter. She supports our addiction, but she's just not that engaged in it. But she came with me, and we stayed up by Tom and Tina's place, and they were busy. They had things going on. I think we did a dinner. Yeah, we did dinner with them one night, but we didn't hunt there at their place, and we didn't really even tap into them because there's so much public ground just
Yeah.
in north central South Dakota. But it's a different experience. I think we shot. I think I only shot 4 roosters in like 2 days. We walked. I think we walked 3.5 miles per bird that we shot. But just it was pristine. It was beautiful. We had great weather. It was like 50 degrees, bluebird skies, and just walking through. And on this public ground we hunted the same area twice because we didn't really cover the whole thing. And one day we saw another group, and they were pretty much just following where we had already been. It's like no pressure, and just had a great experience. Stayed in a crappy hotel, ate bar food, and it was like, I don't have to. This
Yeah.
is the whole experience.
Yeah. It is so fun. So I typically have people on here and we're all politics and we're all like, get
Yeah.
involved
No,
and
yeah.
my soapbox. And you bring like such a different element to it because there is the whole side of entertainment in the
Right.
outdoor industry. And I feel like that entertainment side is it preaches to the industry. It doesn't necessarily help us bring in new people because at times that level that makes it to you seems unattainable to the rookies coming in, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, oh my gosh, like they just got it made. You get all the great spots. It's all fake. Like whatever the stories are that you hear, which we hear all the time. Nobody really ever talks about like this. Like at the end of the day, like, we're setting up decoys at 4 in the morning and we've traveled ourselves, with our own gear. It's not like we have this crew that comes in and does it for us and we just show up, I mean, I'll go 7 days and I even wash my hair, I'm like, I ain't even got time to take 30 minutes to dry this wig. So it's like,
Yeah. I had an appearance a couple weeks ago on a podcast with Matt Ranella,
Mhm.
Stephen Ranella's brother, and he has
Yeah.
a podcast called Hunt Quietly, and he is, let's just say, a not a fan of outdoor golf. And one of his biggest reasons is he thinks it's all fake. That he's participated enough with his brother and he's been around it to see that it's all fake. And arguably I didn't probably do it. I wasn't as aggressive as I probably should have been in terms of trying to correct that. And he made some pretty broad and bold statements about how fake it actually is. And
Never
the
known
reality is,
not to be a truth teller. That's the way I
oh,
like
but
to say it.
so
Just be a
here's the
truth
deal. If you're an artist, like an outdoor programming, an outdoor host or that, you have 22 minutes to check all those boxes. You gotta tell a story. You got to, show some product. You got to, that's the nature of the business. I didn't create it. I've tried to make it better. But I would say that it's not necessarily fake, but it's also not super compelling to show some of those things that we do. I think you can talk about it, and I think there's places for that type of content. But when you're engaged, like here, I'm looking at my TV and Outdoor Channel is on. It's like you've got 22 minutes and you want to share that experience. You're not necessarily sharing the drive, the planting of the food plot, the hours of looking at trail camera photos, setting up trail camera photos, scratching all your mosquito bites, which I have these, my chiropractor yesterday. What happened to your legs? I was like, yeah, I got some mosquito bites here in Minnesota. But it's, I would say it's just not fake, but the reality is you're there to, you're watching outdoor TV to be, inspired and entertained. And some of that stuff, while it's a big part of the hunt that we talk about in environments like this, um, yeah, so Matt was, I don't know, his whole issue is success, and we need to be fighting for access. And his position is that TV talent and the networks aren't doing enough to um, fight for access for general people and setting unrealistic expectations. Because we're going out and shooting 4 or 5 deer a year, where the reality. So anyhow,
Don't forget, I'm from the South. I am like pro private land hunting. Like
well,
that's what we do down here, and so it's all about where you're from, where you've been raised. And I was in that upland world where they're all about public land, public land, public land. I'm like, don't be hating on these private land hunters. They're the ones writing the big fat checks. So y'all got public
right,
land, and
yeah.
I would get upset about it because these are my people down here,
All right, we're going to get you on their podcast, because I'll tell you, we touched on that. I'm very close to Pheasants Forever, right? I
Yes,
live
I
in
would
Minnesota.
too.
It's where Pheasants Forever, Quail Forever was
Mhm.
founded. Bob St. Pierre is a good guy who runs the marketing there. He and I actually spoke before I went on that podcast, because I was looking for some more insight on some of the issues because Matt Ranella is opposed to public funding of hunter recruitment. And I was
Okay.
like, wait, well, because, in his experience in Michigan and Montana and others, that there's, there's not enough public land. And so we're creating false expectations, and we're not doing enough to secure the land that we need. And we already have enough hunters.
Wait,
We have,
you just said, hold up. He said we have enough hunters.
no, you go to his website, Hunt Quietly, and I'll tell you, it's all about, there are enough hunters to continue doing the funding of the Pittman Robertson Act and Stephen, but he's
As
like,
their numbers decline.
yeah, I didn't say I agreed with it. I
I'm
just thought it was
sure
very interesting. So,
the whole day, Mitch.
so then he starts ripping on the NWTF, right? Because he says, if you go to their website and you look at their calendar of events, and I don't remember the exact numbers, but he's like, for every one event around about land access, you have 30 that are for the youth program or recruitment engagement. And I was like, well, yeah, because that's a big part of, of what they do. And I don't understand.
Brought back turkey numbers.
Right. No, exactly.
Like,
But but what we touched on that I wanted to touch on with you was, I said, the NWTF is founded in South Carolina, and hunting, and he was ripping on Michael Waddell, a host on Outdoor Channel, for not making any real contribution to conservation. I was like, come on. I said, first of all, there is and you touched on it. I said, my perception is that the issues facing hunters in the South are very different, because I know that from experience in Alabama, like, there's very little public ground, probably very little. And I know hunting clubs are part of that culture. I said, so I think part of the push for NWTF being a Southern based area has been about, conservation of the species and promotion of the species, less than it has been about land access, because that culturally, that's not what they're doing. Whereas Pheasant Forever was founded on promoting, creating habitat for pheasants, but not so guys like me can kill more pheasants. It's because preserving that habitat, preserve that heritage, but it also improves water. It improves pollinator, habitat.
oh,
It provides habitat for
yeah.
everything. And it's just like in Minnesota, I was reminded by Bob St. Pierre, we are very blessed. We're one of 2 states that actually has a constitutional amendment off one 25 years ago to fund conservation and land access. And so that's why when you come to Minnesota and South Dakota, there is fantastic public land. And I was reminded that there is, and I've avoided it because I don't go to the big areas for the big hunting opener for pheasant season. I'm usually busy bow hunting deer or something. But there's congestion at access points in Minnesota in some of the key areas.
But
And
not just to leave PFQF out, they not only just focus on public land, but they are the number 2 organization with hired biologists, second to the United States government, for helping upland land across the country. They have state biologists. Some states have multiple biologists that not only help with public land, but help landowners with their private land. I don't want it to come across like we're putting PF and QF over there with a Ranella. Like, we're not doing that.
No, I've experienced that personally. I have a friend who has property in West Metro. He's got 160 acres, and we worked with biologists and did some control burns, and the biologist advised him on removing some of the trees because you have to explain it. You want to get rid of all the perches for all the predators, and help your. And that was, that's a no charge service, right? That's just to serve the public good there.
So I'm going to plug this, and I literally am going to go buy 10 of these hats. Don Jr. with his magazine, what's it called?
Field Ethos.
Field Ethos hats say private land hunter.
Yeah.
I'm going to go buy a slew of those, and I'm just going to be passing them out like hotcakes. Thank you, Don Jr. for that.
Because you should listen to the interview we did with Matt Ranella, and I think, and it's funny you bring up Don Jr. It's like we did not agree, and we didn't resolve any major issues. We do have, and we do have some common ground. But what I felt out of that is like it was also a adult conversation of two people who are good people who have a difference of opinion, and it's okay. We felt that. Me and Matt. But Don Jr. the same, because Don's a little more polarizing. That's what reminded me of that. But at the end of the interview with Matt, it just got kind of lighthearted and fun. And by the way, I mentioned I have contacts in Miles City area that want to go pheasant hunting. He's one of them. And I said, that's great, Matt. I'll come out. I'll bring Luna, and we'll document all of it on my Instagram.
Oh, he will not handle it.
He loved it. He loved it. It was all in good spirit.
So, and this is the whole thing. I forgot where I was. I got put in this situation, and there was a bunch of women there that were very uneducated. Happens a lot to me. Somehow I get put in those circles. It was a birthday party. I kid you not. There was 300 kids there with blow up swim slides and all these things. And we were talking about somehow elephant hunting got brought up. People are oblivious to conservation and we'll call it trophy hunting, which I really hate that term, in Africa, and how that supports their entire economy, and how we'll just say how they're judged. The wealthy hunters that go over there are not getting recognized for how they are feeding communities, because it's not like they can pack that meat up and bring it home. They're actually getting every part of every animal. And so that story has not been told enough. So we were talking about that. And I just looked at this one lady and I'm like, can you please tell me who would be the biggest conservationist besides a hunter? I mean, we not only pay to go hunting, but we pay to make sure there's something to hunt. So who trumps us?
Right.
And it dumbfounds people. And I was in Idaho just a couple of weeks ago, flown down the river, and Boise. There were ducks everywhere, all the little baby ducks. And I was like, oh my gosh, it was just the coolest thing, because they would float right by your tube. And some lady who's a non-hunter, I don't know her, but she was part of the group, looked at me and she was like, I guess you just want to eat that. And I'm like, no. And I just gave the same spiel. And
Not yet.
Russ,
give it a couple of years.
Is wrong with you? How in the world they get so committed to one side that there's just not a balance, It's so crazy. And it happens within the hunting industry. So
Yeah.
I don't watch outdoor television. I really don't watch TV really at all. We don't even have a TV here. So if we watch anything, it's like on a computer or an iPad. Um, we spend a lot of time with
I
music, a
I
lot of time.
forgive you. I forgive you
Um,
for that.
I've spent my time creating it and promoting it. I just don't consume it at home. And it's kind of like you can't get burned out on your job, and you
Right.
can't get put in the situations all the time where you get so frustrated that, it takes the fun out of it. It sucks the fun out of doing or taking the meaning of why you do it, because
Yeah.
it does become a job at the
We
end of the
you
day.
you talked a lot. There's a lot to unpack there, and we probably don't have time to go into it. But I've
You have
I've had
to relax.
conversations with folks, same like the woman who saw the duckling, and that it's like, I have a passion for conservation of the species, and and the reality is that little duckling that you like, they're probably going to get eaten by a muskie anyways, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. They're like, it's like, and so yes, I'm gonna, I will shoot a duck and I will consume it and use it, whatever. But that doesn't mean I don't have a complete disregard for the species. And that's what happens. It's like, a bear moves into the metro area in Minneapolis, and they have to euthanize it. And then, and everyone's up in arms. Oh my God, the bears, the bears, the bears. Like, that bear, was a risk, uh, public risk. You have to hear it, that does nothing to the bear population. Manage, let's create better habitat for the bears where they can, as opposed to freaking out about, that one encounter. And, I talk to folks frequently who talk about, elephants and things like that, because, you know, the society today, it's 30-second sound bites that people read headlines and think they understand it. I'm guilty as well, right? Yeah. It's like, I'll read an article, and if I have an opinion about it and talk to somebody about it, like, look, it's not necessarily, based on a lot of it, but here's my opinion on it, right? But, um, and people are very passionate. Elephants are intelligent and they're beautiful, and the headlines say elephants are endangered, and they absolutely are endangered in some areas, but they're not endangered where hunters are. In fact, they're overpopulated and they're causing
yeah,
massive damage. And there's a line that I learned too, in part of this. It's like, if they're not taken care of, they're cold. The government sends in, or the villages kill them and let them lie and die and rot, because they're pillaging villages, they're knocking down trees, they're ruining, hundreds and thousands of acres of crop,
yeah.
because they are absolutely overpopulated. But the anti-hunting movement is like, oh my gosh, elephants are in danger. Look at these people. Look at these, that obviously have, mental issues, are shooting these elephants, where they don't see the elephant feeding the village. They don't see people walking 30 miles to get part of that elephant to bring back to their own village. And so, I always send them. Then you talk about trophy hunting, because I'm not afraid of trophy hunting, because when you understand it, it's actually, it's selective harvest. It's like, who cares what your motivations are? There's, what's the video on YouTube? It's Adam Ruins Everything. I'll send anti-hunting people to a video call, and we should find a link. You can post it or something. It's a
Yeah.
cartoon, and it talks about a guy, and he's like explaining the conservation model hunting. And it's like, well, but you know what? But men who hunt clearly, have issues with their penis size. It's like, who cares what their motivation is? They're hunting, they're consuming, they're investing dollars that those villages need to fund jobs and education and clean water and all that. So that's an interesting one. But, one line that I always kind of fall back on. By the way, we did a documentary called Tough Dirt as well, and it's on my outdoor TV. And it talks about the conservation model and the preservation, because it's heart wrenching for some people to see an elephant or even a deer or something getting shot, but they don't understand the bigger picture.
Well, because
But
Disney ruined it.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So in Africa, I saw a quote from some. They're like, you can't apply Western solutions to African, because
Yeah.
their world is completely different than my world in the western suburbs of Minneapolis. And what you think might work here absolutely does not work. I mean, their issue. My issue is like, okay, how can I find time today to take my kid to go out to lunch and do whatever? Like, their issue is, am I going to have clean water? And I get food in my child's stomach. Um, um, is there something I could do that would give my child hope of having any education, right? as opposed to, oh, we need to stop hunting, understanding that that cuts off the lifeblood, which is the dollars that go in there, and and the money that's invested in Africa, that puts value on those animals. Because if you don't have controlled lion hunting or elephant hunting or giraffe or buffalo, if the money is not there to support that and provide those thousands upon thousands of jobs that it does, they're going to move into ag or farming. They're going to clear cut the land. They're going to kill all of the animals, and because they need to do something to survive. So
Right.
I think it's very complicated, and
It's
to be
really
honest,
not, though. People make it
yeah,
complicated.
right,
So from your perspective, because you manage the influencers of this world, what is your advice on being able to entertain, but also create purpose, like what we're discussing, to tell a story, to help people have the proper mindset? No matter if it's just these kids that are throwing YouTube series together, because I know we're not going to get to talk about the fact that I got hacked and deleted and shadow banned and I
mm,
can't get on social media at all. Like, I
right,
would like you to come back on and talk about these things because it is so important and your knowledge is, I mean, it's just valuable. It's priceless. But I
yeah,
think we need to do a better job of telling our story. What does that look like?
yeah. I have a kind of a complex customer base. I'm looking up a note I took yesterday on this. Um, on the TV side of things, it doesn't always work well. Like I used a great show, um, Whitetail Freaks, Don and Candy Kiske down in Iowa. They're in South Central Iowa. They farm. They are farmers, and I would say the farming element of their lifestyle makes it into their show because they are legitimately farmers. Like you talk to Don, and it's farming, whitetail, and catching crappie, or as you say down south, crappie.
Mhm.
He loves to fish when he can. Um, but it does. The format of his show doesn't really lend itself to being going deep about conservation. So I think the hosts always have to be knowledgeable and prepared and willing to go there when they need to and support it however they can, support their local um, organizations. We haven't mentioned Delta Waterfowl. It's another organization that I love for
Super.
because of their effort and focus on the ground and the ducks and the nesting habitat and all that for all the right reasons. And they're very frugal. Like they're not out living high off the bug, on the sucking out of the industry they're contributing to that. Um, we have shows like Nick Wild Ride on Outdoor Channel, who always tells the conservation, right? And Chad Belding, The Fowl Life, dedicated a season to hunting in California to raise awareness about flight of waterfowl in California. That was commendable. We gave him an award for it, like a legitimate, like that was fantastic. So again, and I love these conversations because in my job, I could probably do more to push for that without trying to taint the end product on the end. Um, but yeah, we all have an obligation. Right.
Well, I just think that part of the story, with me being part of SCI as much as I am, I'm constantly hearing the fight, the daily fight of what they do for us so that we get to just go bare our heads and then having these conversations where people are literally clueless because they have zero knowledge or education or like it just doesn't come across their phone. Right.
Yeah.
And so, Britt Longoria and I had this conversation. It's like, she's way more politically correct than I am. And I'm like, so I don't want to turn people off from the get go, but it's like, man, you get so far in and so deep in it, it's hard to go back to the shallow water of being like, well, this all started here, because this is such an
Right.
ongoing conversation. Yeah, people just don't realize how hard others work behind the scenes so that we get to do what we do and that
Sure.
you actually have an entertaining side of it. Oh my gosh,
Right.
that's huge. My buddies, there's some in SCI, Ramsey Russell, Blood Origins, they all fought just to keep duck hunting in Australia. They have tons of ducks. They have more ducks than they've ever had.
Just
You
thinking
know?
about Blood Origins, like, and Robbie from Blood Origins is tireless. And I have a deep respect for him because it's not easy to engage in the fight all day, every day. You know, like we're all human as well at some point, but he
He
is all
rarely
in.
sleeps. That's why.
I found the quote I saw yesterday, and it was the Jim Shockey quote, and he was talking with one of our hosts, uh, Cody Robbins in Canada. Cody used to be a videographer for him, and now he's just a host of his own show called Live to Hunt. And Jim was complimenting Cody because Cody went from focused on big deer, right? And he just said this is a natural progression as a poet in a hunting field. Focus on the big deer, and then you start to focus on the cow. Okay, and now I've got big deer or duck or whatever. Focus on the cow, and I think the ultimate level of maturity that a lot of our people are at now is the why, and that's the story, and that's where people can go. And it's like, why? It's not about the big deer anymore. We can shoot big deer. Big deer are fun. That can be the cream on the or the cherry on top, as we say. But the reality is we need to focus on telling that story of why it is and encourage people to experience that. And I think the other, and again, we could go for another 3 hours. When you look back on the Cecil the Lion, right, that, a dentist from Minnesota, was one by, and there he was around that, whatever. People certainly didn't understand it, but there's evidence that campaign against the dentist was a campaign that was planned and scheduled and on the shelf and waiting for the opportunity to deploy it by the anti-hunting industry. And the biggest part of the evidence is it went on for weeks. Like normally, no one's talking about Donald Trump 4 weeks ago getting shot in the ear, right? Our news cycle is shorter. The Cecil the Lion story endured longer than Donald Trump's attempted assassination, right? And
It's like all in itself and a rabbit hole I would love to go down.
Right. Well, we lost the middle ground as hunters.
Yeah.
And so I think our effort to talk about hunting and everything that's great about it and conservation and all the wonderful stories we have, and I think I addressed this in the Hunt Quietly podcast. We don't necessarily need to convert everybody into being the next Anna V or Mitch P or whatever, right? We need to win back that middle ground so people understand that hunting is important, it's good, and for the people who want to do it, it's not my cup of tea, but you know what? I'm not going to be passionately opposed to it. And that's where we lost that. I don't think we've gained it back. We've made some headway in that, but I think people still have that horned lion hunt. That was the worst of the worst. And without some of the most disgusting elements of the anti-hunting movement ever. And by the way, I've seen some interesting things in my chair. I've seen the coordinated effort of PETA. And I'll be honest, in a very sad way, it was impressive. They made a push to have somebody, an African professional hunter, not even a host on it. They were trying to get that person essentially canceled, and they sent us materials. They sent it was from a lawyer, and it was a lawsuit, and it was like, wow, this is like they have the means and the motivation to take it to us. And your friends at Safari Club and other organizations like the Congressional Sportsman Foundation are absolutely fighting wildly on the front lines there, but we need to support them as well.
Well, and now that you say that, like, I think it's unfathomable to know the web that they have, because I know that I was targeted by the anti group over and over and over because I lost my Facebook, I lost Instagram. I can't rebuild. Like, it's crazy how big that is, and we don't know.
Let's do a part two, because that's another wormhole, because, Melissa Bachman from Winchester Deadly Passion on Sportsman Channel, amazing sport, legitimate hardcore hunter, very passionate about it, has introduced a lot of people to the sport. She goes out, she does a lot of trade shows, conventions, consumer shows, and so her reach is fantastic. The vitriol and hate threat that I've seen. To me, and it's not just her, it's women who participate in the sport are the object of more of this because, you know, you buck kind of the traditional role, even though it's funny because the anti-hunters are also not necessarily pro-traditional women.
Right.
They don't want you to stay home barefoot, pregnant, and doing whatever. They want you to also be progressive and blue hair and do whatever, but you certainly can't
Well,
be
being a
shooting
stubborn Christian
shooting
outspoken
guns.
woman with a
Right,
gun in her
exactly.
hand.
So,
Yeah.
all right, now you're getting me a little bit riled up, but no,
I
I
like
have it. I have it in me, but yes, but the to go back to the very beginning, I think I really support what you do because I understand how awesome it is. Everything with the dog, everything with Tater. I'm a big fan of Tater as well, and the music and just, and when you look at my social media, which I'm not trying to be an influencer, but that I try to post things that I think would be, not inspirational, but a little strong. I want people to look at it and go, man,
Yeah.
you know, I had a good friend tell me once, he goes, man, you're really enjoying retirement. I'm like, yeah, I still work full time. I just go out and I do, I get a couple hours at a time. I fished with my son last night for an hour, caught a couple of fish, right? It's like, so I haven't been posting that prolifically because now that people think I don't work anymore, but we go out, we have fun, success is part of that. We don't always, post the failure. I guess I should do some more of that. Um, but yeah,
I appreciate you. I appreciate all of your advice all the time in our friendship. And thank you for coming on. I can't wait for part two. There's
yeah,
so much for
part
us
two
to talk about.
and part three, because we are, for all the right reasons, we're planning to breed Luna,
Yeah.
and I'm excited, and I've done a ton of research. And when I say the right reasons, it's like we love our dog, and she's amazing, but everybody loves their dog, and everyone thinks their dog's amazing. But I've talked with folks like you and Dad, and talked to Tom and Tina and many others about it. Like Luna has a characteristic of a hunting dog that we want to expand in the line, right? Like
Mhm.
other than her barking earlier, she's not super vocal, but she's driven, she's got good off way skilled. Like it's going to be a great mom, and so that's going to be a fun adventure. But I have to tell you, it's funny. So I hunted in Europe with a guy named Shiliu, and we hunted hogs, and he had a dog named Luna, and that dog came with him, and it was, I don't remember what kind of dog it was, some kind of hound, but beautiful, beautiful dog. And I was like, man, I love that dog, and I loved everything about him and that dog. And I was like, I'm going to do that someday. So it's like funny when I got a dog, I was like, I didn't even think about it. Like, well, yeah, Luna, that was her name. But then when I went to register, do all the paperwork and that for her, it said, on the website, it came back Lady Luna V.
Yeah.
And I don't know what the V was for. And I didn't, I've never named a dog like that before. And I probably could have done some more, like her mom's name was Lady Remington and her dad's name was whatever, like Magnum, something. It's like, okay, I could have done the Magnum Remington, blah, 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 whatever. But I said, you know what? As a nod to Anna V, I'm just going to leave that. And so that's why she is officially Lady Luna V.
Well, I love her. I've loved her since day one, and I would probably jump right in and get a puppy. So if you're going to
Yeah.
breed her, I want to get first pick of the females.
Man, all right. I was thinking about, so I'm going to probably keep
Okay. Well,
this up.
if you get one, of course, I'll be 2nd.
We'll
But
negotiate.
order on the list.
Right.
Thank you so much. Give
No
your family
problem.
big hugs for me.
We'll
And
see you this fall in Minnesota. Make sure if you come before the
oh
end of
yeah,
October, we can probably sneak a boat right in too.
sounds good. Look forward to part two.
All right.